Don't ever touch me. A kid's voice, but hard. Airline Captain John Reynolds should have listened. Should have just walked away. But Reynolds, metals gleaming, puffed up with old money, saw only a 13-year-old black girl in his first-class cabin. He figured a little discipline was in order. What he didn't know? Alicia Banks wasn't just some kid. She owned the damn airline. Her dad built it, and now, sidelined by a heart attack, Alicia was flying solo to London, carrying the company's future in her small hands. Reynolds wouldn't just lose his job. He was about to stumble into a war where Alicia's quiet strength would expose rot that ran deeper than anyone imagined. That quiet kid, she was about to burn it all down. Don't ever touch me. A kid's voice, but hard. Airline Captain John Reynolds should have listened, should have just walked away. But Reynolds, metals gleaming, puffed up with old money, saw only a 13-year-old black girl in his first-class cabin. He figured a little discipline was in order. What he didn't know, Alicia Banks wasn't just some kid. She owned the damn airline. Her dad built it, and now, sidelined by a heart attack, Alicia was flying solo to London, carrying the company's future in her small hands. Reynolds wouldn't just lose his job. He was about to stumble into a war where Alicia's quiet strength would expose rot that ran deeper than anyone imagined. That quiet kid, she was about to burn it all down. The genesis of Alicia's power wasn't luck. It was forged in loss and nurtured by relentless dedication. 8 years prior, a drunk driver stole her mother, Dr. Simone Banks, a pioneering cardiac surgeon, leaving a void that echoed in Alicia's young life. Simone wasn't just a mother, she was a shield against a world that often judged Alicia for the color of her skin. Simone's battles against prejudice within the medical establishment fueled Alicia's understanding of systemic injustice. She'd recount stories of patients refusing treatment, of colleagues dismissing her expertise, each tale a brick in the fortress Alicia was building around her heart. After Simone's death, Sebastian Banks, Alicia's father, channeled his grief into building transatlantic airways. Starting with a single battered Boeing 737, he defied skeptics and transformed a dream into a billion-dollar empire. He poured his heart into the airline, honoring Simone's memory with every successful flight. But his true masterpiece was Alicia. Sebastian didn't shield Alicia from the harsh realities of the business world. By 10, she was a fixture in board meetings, a silent observer absorbing the intricacies of finance and strategy. Where other children learned fairy tales, Alicia devoured quarterly earnings reports. While her peers played, she analyzed market trends, identifying opportunities and potential pitfalls with an unnerving accuracy. At 12, her investment recommendations were already shaping the airline's future. Her early bet on sustainable aviation fuel, a testament to her foresight. Now, at 13, Alicia carried the weight of transatlantic airways on her slender shoulders. A recent heart attack had sidelined Sebastian, forcing him to entrust her with a critical shareholder meeting in London. The gravity of the situation was immense, but Alicia felt no fear, only a quiet determination to uphold her father's legacy. That morning at JFK was typical, the terminal buzzing with the frantic energy of travelers. Flight 227 to London was scheduled to board soon. Alicia navigated the crowds, her small frame radiating an unusual calmness. A worn leather carry-on, a tangible link to her father's humble beginnings, bumped softly against her leg. Inside, alongside financial documents and her meticulously prepared presentation, was a photograph of Simone, her smile a beacon of strength and resilience. At the coffee shop near her gate, Alicia's request for a double espresso was met with a dismissive, "What can I get you, sweetie?" Her polite but firm correction, "Double espresso, please, and I'm not your sweetie," was a subtle assertion of her own agency, a principle instilled by her mother. Demand respect and don't apologize for it. As she reviewed her presentation, a troubling detail caught her eye. A significant drop in customer satisfaction among passengers of color in first class. The numbers whispered a story of inequality, a story she vowed to investigate. Across the terminal, a scene unfolded that perfectly illustrated the very problem. A woman radiating entitled fury berated a gate agent, Paula, demanding an upgrade with a sense of self-importance that made Alicia's skin crawl. "Do I need to call the CEO?" the woman shrieked. Alicia watched with a quiet disgust. Some people confuse wealth with worth. They think because they can afford first class, they are first class. But class isn't about money, it's about character. That woman, Victoria Sterling, would soon try to take what Alicia rightfully possessed, and Captain John Reynolds, a relic of a bygone era of privilege and prejudice, was about to become her accomplice. In his world, wealth and power dictated who belonged where, and a 13-year-old black girl clearly didn't fit his narrow definition of first class. He carried himself with the air of someone who believed the skies belonged to him, viewing passengers as mere subjects in his aerial kingdom. He'd risen through the ranks not on merit, but on connections. His bigotry quietly tolerated, even enabled, by a system that favored those who looked and sounded like him. As Reynolds made his way through the cabin for the pre-flight walkthrough, his gaze landed on Alicia. The smile he'd been wearing froze on his face, replaced by a look of barely concealed disapproval. He approached her, condescension dripping from every word. "Excuse me, young lady," he began, his voice laced with a patronizing sweetness. "Can I see your boarding pass?" The subtle disdain, the unspoken assumption that she didn't belong, fueled a quiet rage within Alicia. This wasn't just about a seat, it was about something much larger. This was the culmination of a lifetime of subtle aggressions, the legacy of a system designed to keep people like her in their place, and she was about to push back. Her father couldn't travel. "I'm representing him at a business meeting in London." Reynolds lets out a condescending laugh, the kind of laugh that says, "Isn't that cute?" The kind that makes Alicia's jaw tighten. "A business meeting?" He's almost amused. "Sweetheart, you're 13. What kind of business meeting?" And here's where Alicia makes her first move. Her voice doesn't rise. She doesn't get defensive. She just states a fact calm and clear. "A shareholder meeting and I'm not your sweetheart." Something flashes in Reynolds' eyes. Anger, embarrassment, whatever it is, Alicia just made herself a target because men like Reynolds don't like being corrected. Especially not by teenage girls. Especially not by black teenage girls who dare to speak with confidence. Meanwhile, fueled by righteous indignation and a desperate desire to impress her husband, Victoria Sterling was orchestrating her own power play, demanding Reynolds displace Alicia and give her the seat. Paula, a flight attendant eager to please, reluctantly obeyed, ordering Sarah to move Alicia. "That child doesn't need first class. Victoria does," Reynolds had sneered. But Sarah was no fool. She was just trying to make a living. Reynolds returned to Alicia, that practiced smile plastered back on his face. "Miss Banks," he said, his voice betraying a hint of impatience, "we have a situation." He launched into a fabricated explanation about operational requirements, demanding she relinquish her seat, but Alicia stood her ground. "No," she stated, her voice clear and unwavering. "I have a confirmed, paid reservation for this seat. I'm not moving." Other passengers began to take notice, sensing the escalating tension. That's when Victoria Sterling stepped in, dripping with false concern. "Honey, this is an adult situation. Sometimes we have to be flexible." Alicia turned her gaze upon Victoria, a look so intense it silenced the woman mid-sentence. "I'm not your honey," she declared, her voice ringing with quiet authority. "And I'm not moving for you." The cabin fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Reynolds' face flushed crimson, his authority crumbling before his eyes. He stammered about her being extremely difficult, but Alicia remained unmoved. "No, Captain, I'm being extremely clear. This is discrimination, and we all know it," she stated, the accusation hanging in the air. As several other passengers, including a black businessman and elderly white woman, spoke out in support of Alicia and condemnation of Reynolds, she reached for her phone, her voice betraying not a trace of fear. "Then you won't mind if I document this conversation for the record," she announced, activating the camera. With calm precision, she narrated the events, her words a damning indictment of Reynolds' discriminatory actions. That's when Captain Reynolds snapped. "Put that phone away right now." He raised his hand. At that moment, he wasn't thinking about the consequences. He wasn't thinking about his career. He wasn't thinking about anything except rage. Rage at being defied. Rage at being recorded. Rage at losing control. He raised his hand to slap the phone out of her grip, and in the process to strike her face. Time seemed to slow down. Passengers gasped. Sarah screamed. Victoria Sterling actually stepped backward, suddenly realizing this had gone too far. But Alicia Banks caught his wrist midair. Her grip was iron. Her eyes were pure steel. This is the moment everything changed. Don't you dare look away now. What happens next will give you chills. She holds his wrist for 3 long seconds. 3 seconds that feel like an eternity. And in those 3 seconds, Reynolds realizes something terrifying. This girl is not afraid of him. Then Alicia speaks. Her voice is quiet, but somehow it cuts through the silence like a knife. Don't ever touch me. She holds his gaze for 3 more seconds, then releases his wrist. Reynolds stumbles backward, his face a mixture of red embarrassment and white fear. His hand is shaking. The entire cabin just watched him try to hit a child, and they watched that child stop him with frightening calm. Alicia continues, her voice still steady. I defended myself, and everyone here saw you try to assault a minor, including the 7 cameras currently recording. She's right. The businessman in 3C has his phone out. So does the elderly woman in 4A, the famous actor in 4B, the young couple in 5D. Even some passengers in the rows behind first class have stood up to record. Reynolds is cornered, exposed, and he does fear. His hand is shaking. The entire cabin just watched him try to hit a child, and they watched that child stop him with frightening calm. Alicia continues, her voice still steady. I defended myself, and everyone here saw you try to assault a minor, including the 7 cameras currently recording. She's right. The businessman in 3C has his phone out. So does the elderly woman in 4A, the famous actor in 4B, the young couple in 5D. Even some passengers in the rows behind first class have stood up to record. Reynolds is cornered, exposed, and he does what cornered men always do. He lashes out. That's it. You're off this flight security. But Alicia doesn't flinch because here's what she was thinking in that moment. And she told me this herself later when I had the privilege of interviewing her. My mother taught me that fear is a choice. You can let it control you, or you can control it. That man wanted me to be afraid, to shrink, to cry, to apologize for existing in a space he thought I didn't belong. But my mother also taught me something else. I belong everywhere I choose to be, and no one gets to tell me different. Not a pilot, not a CEO, not a president, no one. So Alicia didn't shrink, she didn't cry. She pulled out her phone again. Before you call security, Captain, she says, calm, almost casual. I need to make one phone call. You might want to hear it. Reynolds is practically sputtering now. You don't get to make demands. It'll just take a minute. She's already dialing. Put it on speaker so everyone can hear. The number's on the speed dial, position 2, right after her father. The phone rings once. Passengers are leaning forward in their seats. This teenage girl, this child who just stopped a grown man from hitting her, is making a phone call like she's ordering pizza. The confidence is unreal. The phone rings twice. Reynolds whispers urgently to Sarah. Who the hell is she calling? Sarah shakes her head. She has no idea, but something in her gut tells her this is about to get very, very bad for Captain Reynolds. The phone rings a 3rd time. Then a voice answers. Professional, authoritative, a voice that carries weight, even through a phone speaker. Michael Daniels. Reynolds freezes. His face goes from red to white in approximately 2 seconds. Sarah's eyes go wide. She mouths to Reynolds. That's our CEO. Reynolds looks like he might pass out. Let me tell you about Michael Daniels. He's the CEO of Transatlantic Airways, having been running it for 15 years. Brilliant businessman, MBA from Wharton. Turned the airline profitable during the pandemic when half the industry was filing for bankruptcy. Respected, fierce, powerful, but more importantly, he owed his career to one man, Sebastian Banks. 20 years ago, Michael Daniels was a mid-level manager at a regional airline, going nowhere fast. He was good at his job, but he didn't have the connections, the pedigree, the Ivy League network that opened doors. He was just another guy with potential and no opportunities. Then he met Sebastian Banks at an industry conference. They sat next to each other at a lunch panel, started talking about airline economics, and Sebastian was impressed. This young man understood the industry not just as a business, but as a service. He cared about passenger experience, about employee satisfaction, about building something that mattered. Sebastian hired him on the spot, gave him a position at Transatlantic when it was still a scrappy startup with 3 planes, mentored him, taught him everything about running an airline, and when Sebastian decided to step back after his wife died, when the grief was too much and he needed to focus on raising Alicia, he trusted Daniels to run the company. Daniels never forgot that he owed Sebastian everything: his career, his success, his $2 million salary. And Daniels knew one sacred rule, one rule that was more important than profits or passenger numbers or quarterly earnings. You do not mess with the Banks family. Back to the scene. The phone is on speaker. Every passenger in first class can hear. "Mr. Daniels," Alicia says, her voice finally showing a hint of emotion. "Relief maybe, or exhaustion." It's Alicia. The voice on the phone changes immediately. The corporate authority melts into genuine warmth and concern. "Alicia, are you all right? Is everything okay with your father?" "Dad's fine, but I have a situation on flight 227 to London." The pause. "What kind of situation?" Alicia takes a breath, then delivers the facts calmly, precisely, like she's presenting in a boardroom. "Captain John Reynolds is attempting to remove me from my paid first-class seat to accommodate Mrs. Victoria Sterling, who has an economy ticket. When I refused to move, Captain Reynolds accused me of being difficult. When I began recording the interaction for documentation, he raised his hand to strike me. I defended myself. It's all on video. Multiple passengers have recordings. The silence on the other end of the phone lasts maybe 5 seconds, but it feels longer. In that silence, you can almost hear Michael Daniels' blood pressure rising. When he speaks again, his voice is ice. Absolutely zero warmth. Pure CEO fury. Put Captain Reynolds on the phone. Now Reynolds takes the phone with shaking hands. His career is flashing before his eyes, and he knows it. "This is Captain Reynolds." Daniels doesn't let him finish. "Captain, do you know who Alicia Banks is?" Reynolds' voice cracks slightly. She's just a passenger who she is the daughter of Sebastian Banks. Sebastian Banks owns 65% of this airline. That girl you just tried to assault, she owes the company you work for. She is your boss. You just attempted to strike the majority shareholder's daughter, and you're done. The phone drops from Reynolds' hand. It clatters onto the floor. Can you imagine? 1 second, you're the king of your aircraft, making decisions, throwing your weight around. The next second, you realize you just tried to hit the owner's daughter, the girl who could buy and sell you 1,000 times over, the girl who, with one phone call, could end not just your career, but your entire reputation in the industry. Would you have loved to see his face at that moment? Smash that like button if you're feeling this justice. The phone is still on speaker, lying on the floor. Daniels' voice continues, now addressing the entire cabin. "This is Michael Daniels, CEO of Transatlantic Airways. I'm addressing everyone on Flight 227. What you witnessed is unacceptable, unconscionable, and will result in immediate consequences. Captain Reynolds, you are relieved of duty effective immediately. Security is being dispatched to escort you off this aircraft. First Officer Martinez will take command of this flight. You will be escorted to headquarters for termination proceedings. Mrs. Victoria Sterling, you are also being removed from this aircraft. You are banned from Transatlantic Airways for life. Your elite status is revoked. You will receive formal notification within 24 hours. To every passenger who witnessed this traumatic incident, Transatlantic Airways will be reaching out personally to apologize and compensate you for this experience. Your tickets will be refunded and you'll receive vouchers for future travel." And Alicia, his voice softens. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Your father would be so proud of how you handled this. You showed more strength and grace than most adults ever could. I'll call him as soon as we hang up." Sarah picks up the phone from the floor and hands it to Alicia. "Thank you, Mr. Daniels," Alicia says quietly. Then she ends the call. The cabin is still silent. Nobody knows what to say. This 13-year-old girl just revealed herself as the owner of the airline. And everyone just watched a captain destroy his career in real time. Then Victoria Sterling starts panicking. The reality is hitting her like a freight train. Wait. She's grabbing Reynolds' arm, then Alicia's, then anyone who listened. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know. John told me she was just some kid who I would never. Alicia turns to her. There's no anger in her expression, just a calm, cold assessment. I am just some kid. But that kid owns this airline, and you're banned for life. Enjoy finding another way to London. Victoria's face crumples. But the dinner, the deal, Richard will. Richard will understand that actions have consequences, Alicia says simply. Security arrives within 3 minutes. 2 uniformed officers board the aircraft. The passengers watch as Captain John Reynolds, the man who walked onto this plane an hour ago like he owned it, is now being escorted off in complete disgrace. His career is over. His reputation is destroyed. His pilot's license will be under investigation by the FAA. Airlines share information about terminated employees. He'll never fly commercially again. Victoria Sterling is removed next, still screaming about lawyers and her husband's connections and how this is all a mistake. But none of it matters. She's banned for life. In the airline industry, that information spreads. Other airlines will know. She'll be flying on no-name budget carriers from now on, crammed in middle seats in the back of the plane. The passengers are processing what they just witnessed. The businessman in 3C starts a slow clap. It's corny maybe, but appropriate. Then the elderly woman in 4A joins in. Then the young couple. Then the entire cabin erupts in applause. They're applauding Alicia Banks, this teenage girl who refused to be moved, who caught a grown man's hand mid-slap, who made one phone call and changed everything. Alicia just nods politely. She's not doing this for applause. She's doing it because it was right. Flight attendant Sarah approaches her, tears in her eyes. Miss Banks, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you. I knew it was wrong, and I said nothing. Alicia looks at her kindly. What's your name? Sarah Mitchell. I've been with the airline for 3 years. Sarah, thank you for your honesty. That takes courage. Alicia reaches into her blazer and pulls out a business card. It's simple, elegant, just says, Man Anthony, consultant with an email address. It's the card her father uses when he doesn't want to reveal his identity. Email me your report about what happened today. I'll make sure the right people see it. Sarah takes the card with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. But here's what nobody on that plane knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because Alicia Banks wasn't interested in just firing one pilot. She was about to dismantle an entire system of discrimination. And it would start the moment she landed in London. But first she had a flight to catch. First Officer Martinez takes command. The flight takes off 90 minutes late. Alicia sits in her seat to the seat she fought for, the seat she earned, and works on her presentation like nothing happened. But something did happen, and the ripples were just beginning. Subscribe if you want to see how Alicia completely transforms this airline and exposes a system of discrimination that went back years. Trust me, the best part is still coming. What would you have done in Alicia's position? Would you have stood your ground or taken the economy's seat to avoid confrontation? I really want to know. Drop your answer below. Flight 227 cruises at 35,000 RFT. Most passengers try to sleep, though some are still buzzing with adrenaline from what they witnessed. Alicia sits in 2A, her tablet open, reviewing her shareholder presentation one final time, but she's also making notes on everything that just happened. Facts. She's thorough because her father taught her. Documentation is everything. But across the Atlantic, in a corner office on the 47th floor of a Manhattan skyscraper, Michael Daniels is not sleeping. He's pacing. He's furious. And he's on his 3rd conference call in the last hour. I want Reynolds' entire file on my desk in 20 minutes. Daniels barks at his HR director. Every complaint, every incident report, every passenger feedback form that mentions his name. I want to know how we missed this. I want to know who protected him, and I want names. His HR director, Patricia Anthony, a woman who's been with the company for 22 years, sounds exhausted. Sir, we're pulling it now. But what? There are multiple complaints dating back years, mostly from passengers of color. Some were flagged but never escalated to your level. Daniel stops pacing. His voice goes dangerously quiet. Never escalated. Why? Patricia takes a breath. Captain Reynolds had connections, friends in middle management. His flight record was otherwise exemplary. Perfect safety scores on time departures, good customer reviews from most passengers. The complaints were deemed not credible or misunderstandings or personality conflicts. So we protected a racist because he knew how to fly a plane. Daniel's voice is shaking now. We're a billion-dollar company and we let this slide. Sir, I get me every person who reviewed those complaints and dismissed them. Every manager, every HR rep, every executive who signed off on sweeping this under the rug. I want their names. By morning, the investigation that begins that night reveals something ugly, something systemic, something that makes Daniel sick to his stomach because he should have known. He's the CEO. He should have seen it. The file on Captain John Reynolds is thick, much thicker than it should be. The records go back years. In 2019, a black passenger named David Jackson filed a complaint. He'd been randomly selected for additional screening 4 flights in a row, always when Reynolds was captain. Jackson was a successful defense attorney, frequent flyer, Diamond Elite status. He'd never been selected for extra screening before or since, but those 4 flights with Reynolds every single time. The complaint went to a middle manager named Tom Harrison, who happened to be Reynolds' fraternity brother from college. Harrison's note in the file: passenger seems overly sensitive. Random selection is random. Complaint dismissed. In 2020, an Asian American family, the Anonis, ironically, were questioned extensively about their first-class tickets by Reynolds. He made them show IDs 3 times, asked how they could afford first class, implied they might have stolen the tickets. Mrs. Anthony filed a detailed complaint with photos, witnesses, and everything documented. That complaint went to the same middle manager. His note: Captain Reynolds was performing due diligence. Given the rise in credit card fraud, extra verification is reasonable. Complaint dismissed. In 2021, a Latina businesswoman named Rosa Martinez, no relation to First Officer Martinez, was told by Reynolds that first class was for serious business travelers and questioned whether she really needed to be in that section. She was the VP of a Fortune 500 company. She filed a complaint with the airline and threatened to take her company's travel budget elsewhere. That complaint made it higher up the chain, but Reynolds' friend in management convinced executives it was a misunderstanding and offered Rosa a voucher. She took it and dropped the complaint. In 2022, a black co-pilot named Sebastian Thompson, yes, named Sebastian, like Alicia's father, filed an internal complaint about Reynolds creating a hostile work environment. Reynolds made constant comments about diversity hires and affirmative action. He questioned Thompson's qualifications, asked if he really went to flight school or just checked a box. Thompson's complaint was detailed, professional, and devastating. It should have resulted in immediate investigation. Instead, it was reviewed by Reynolds' golf buddy in HR and dismissed as personality differences. Thompson quit 3 months later and now flies for Delta. Complaint after complaint, incident after incident, all dismissed, all buried, all protected, because Reynolds was white, well-connected, and good at his job. Until Alicia Banks. This is how discrimination survives. Good people do nothing. If this makes you angry, share this story. People need to hear it. 10 hours after takeoff, Flight 227 lands at London Heathrow Airport. It's 8:30 p.m. local time. Alicia has slept for 3 hours, reviewed her presentation twice, and mentally prepared herself for what's coming. She's met at the gate by a driver holding a sign. Banks. He's professional, courteous, and doesn't ask questions about the delay. They walk through Heathrow's massive terminals to the car waiting outside. As they drive through London's evening traffic toward the Ritz-Carlton, Alicia's phone buzzes. A text from her father. Daniel's told me what happened. Are you okay? Alicia types back. I'm fine, Dad, but the airline isn't. We have a culture problem. I'm going to fix it. 3 dots appear. Her father is typing. Then that's my girl. Do what needs to be done. I trust you completely. Alicia smiles. She screenshots the text and saves it. She might need that permission later. 2 hours later, after checking into her hotel, reviewing her notes one final time, and changing into fresh clothes, Alicia walks into the boardroom at the Ritz-Carlton, London. The shareholder meeting starts in 5 minutes. She's the youngest person in the room by 30 years, minimum. The room is exactly what you'd expect. Long mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking London. And sitting around that table, every major transatlantic airways executive, every board member, every significant investor, all white except for 2 people, all male except for 3 women, all over 45, all powerful, all wealthy, all staring at this teenage girl like she wandered into the wrong room. The whispers start immediately. Is that Sebastian Banks' daughter? She's a child. Why is she here? I thought Sebastian was presenting. This is inappropriate. Someone should. The door opens. Michael Daniels enters. His flight from New York landed 2 hours ago. He looks exhausted but determined. He walks straight to Alicia, ignoring the confused executives. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel says, addressing the room. I apologize for the delay in starting this meeting. Before we begin with quarterly earnings and strategic planning, we need to address a serious incident that occurred this morning on Flight 227 from New York to London. The executives exchange glances. What incident? Daniels continues. This is Alicia Banks, daughter of Sebastian Banks, our majority shareholder. She was traveling to London to represent her father at this meeting. She's here to speak about what happened on her flight. Now the confusion is mixed with concern. Alicia stands and walks to the front of the room. She connects her tablet to the presentation screen. Her hands are steady. Her voice is clear. Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Banks. I'm 13 years old and I own 65% of this company through my family's holdings. This morning, one of our captains, Captain John Reynolds, attempted to forcibly remove me from my paid first-class seat to accommodate a white woman with an economy ticket. When I refused, he threatened me. When I documented the interaction, he attempted to physically assault me. I have it on video. She presses play. The video fills the screen. Every executive watches in horror as Reynolds interrogates Alicia, as Victoria Sterling demands her seat. As the confrontation escalates, they watch as Reynolds raises his hand to strike her. They watch as Alicia catches his wrist. They watch the whole thing. When the video ends, the room is silent. Some executives are pale. One woman has her hand over her mouth. The CFO looks like he might throw up. Alicia continues, her voice unwavering. This isn't about one bad pilot. This is about a system that protected that pilot for years, despite numerous complaints. I spent the flight reviewing his file. Mr. Daniels sent it to me. Since 2019, there have been 14 formal complaints about discriminatory behavior from Captain Reynolds. 14, all dismissed as misunderstandings or not credible. She pulls up a slide. It shows every complaint redacted for privacy, but with dates, descriptions, and outcomes. Here's the reality. Transatlantic Airways has a discrimination problem, and it starts at the top. Not with you, Mr. Daniels. You inherited this culture, but with the executives and middle managers who decided that protecting their friends was more important than protecting our passengers. The room is still silent. Nobody knows what to say. This 13-year-old girl is dismantling their entire corporate culture in real time. So here's what's going to happen, Alicia says, and now her voice has steel in it. We're conducting a full audit. Every employee, every complaint, every incident report from the last 10 years. I want an independent firm, someone with no ties to this company. Anyone who buried complaints to protect their friends, gone. Anyone who witnessed discrimination and said nothing, retrained or removed. We're implementing mandatory anti-bias training company-wide, not the online video that people click through in 10 minutes. Real training with accountability. We're creating an anonymous complaint system that bypasses middle management and goes directly to an independent ethics board. Employees and passengers need to know their voices will be heard, and we're creating a passenger bill of rights that makes it clear on our planes everyone is treated with dignity. Period. Not because it's good for business, though it is, but because it's right. An older board member, white man, probably 65, chairman of the compensation committee, clears his throat. With all due respect, Miss Banks, these reforms will cost millions of dollars in implementation, training, auditing. Alicia turns to him, and her response is devastating. With all due respect, sir, discrimination lawsuits will cost more. Do you know how many passengers we've lost to competitors because of experiences like mine? Do you know how fast this video would destroy our brand if it went public? Do you know what the SEC would do if they found out we systematically buried discrimination complaints? My father built this airline on one principle: excellence for everyone. Not just white passengers, not just wealthy passengers. Everyone. Somewhere along the way, you all forgot that. I'm reminding you. The room is silent again. Then the CFO speaks. How do we know this isn't an isolated incident? One bad captain. Alicia pulls up another slide. Because I had Mr. Daniels' team pull complaint data across the company. In the last 5 years, we've had 127 complaints involving racial discrimination. 127.89 were dismissed without investigation. That's not isolated. That's systemic. One of the female board members, an Asian woman, probably the only person in the room who understands what Alicia experienced, speaks up. What do you need from us? A vote. Alicia says simply to approve these reforms, to allocate the budget to make it clear that this company is changing. Daniel stands all in favor. Every hand goes up unanimously because what choice do they have? Alicia literally owns the company, but also because, and this is important, they know she's right. But Alicia isn't done. One more thing, she says. Sarah Mitchell, the flight attendant on Flight 227, will be promoted to Senior Customer Experience Officer. She filed a whistleblower reporting my account and exposing the culture of silence. That took courage. We reward courage. Some executives look confused. Who's Sarah Mitchell? But Daniels nods. He understands. Sarah almost stayed silent, but didn't. She deserves recognition. What about Captain Reynolds? Another board member asks. Daniels answers this one. Terminated for cause. No severance. His pilot's license is under FAA investigation. We've shared our findings with the Federal Aviation Administration and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And Mrs. Sterling banned from Transatlantic Airways and 3 partner airlines for life. We're also notifying her husband's company that their corporate travel contract is under review. Alicia adds, word will get out about why that's intentional. Actions have consequences. That is how you handle a boardroom full of powerful men. If you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at the epic conclusion. Sarah Mitchell, the flight attendant who almost stayed silent, gets a second chance. 3 weeks after the incident, she's promoted to Senior Customer Experience Officer with a $40,000 raise and the authority to investigate passenger complaints personally. She becomes one of the airline's most vocal advocates for change. She makes sure every employee knows. If you see something, say something, and you'll be protected. Captain Reynolds is terminated for cause. No severance. His pilot's license is suspended by the FAA pending investigation. When the industry finds out why, and they do find out, because these things always get out, no airline will touch him. He applies to Delta, United, American, Southwest, JetBlue. All rejected. His reputation is destroyed. 6 months later, he's working as a security manager at a shopping mall in suburban New Jersey, making $42,000 a year. From a captain making $250,000 to mall security, it's a fall that would make Icarus blush. Victoria Sterling is banned from Transatlantic Airways for life. But it gets worse. Her husband Richard's company, Sterling Properties, loses a major contract with an airport development project worth $15 million. The developer doesn't explicitly say why, but everyone knows. Word gets out. Victoria's behavior went viral among airline executives. Other airlines quietly add her to their internal watch lists. She's not banned everywhere, but she's flagged everywhere. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories of justice, courage, and standing up for what's right. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in Alicia's position? Would you have stood your ground, or would you have taken the economy seat to avoid confrontation? I really want to know your honest answer. And remember, you never know who you're dealing with. Treat everyone with respect, not because they might be powerful, but because it's the right thing to do. Because everyone deserves dignity. Because we're all just people trying to make our way through this world. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next